Discretion is advised. Mama Black.
This program contains language and sequences some viewers may find disturbing.
Right! Well, it's because you take that you service your whole entire life. And then throwing everything beneath it away because it doesn't pertain to you. I'm sorry, but you are... No. I let you talk. I let you talk. You're going to let me talk. Oh my God. I'm sorry that this is the way it is. It is fucked up. But white people control everything. And that's not fair. And when anybody, any other minority tries to say anything about it or change it, we're complaining or we're ungrateful or all this stuff because we still have this and that. But then you say something about, oh, I know there's too many Latinos or there's too many...
I didn't say that.
Then you did. That's exactly.
I said I want to
You said you don't want this to turn into a Latin country.
I did not
because
say
there
that.
will be too many Latinos.
You
want to preserve the American culture. There is no American culture. American culture is mayonnaise. And because you are white and you are so close-minded, you refuse to accept that. You refuse to accept.
Don't tell me I'm closed-minded.
Everything you've said to me is closed-minded.
Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I'm closed-minded.
You don't need to agree. I've had conversations with people that don't agree with me, but if they at least listen and try to accept, you're not accepting the truth.
Why do I have to accept what you think is right?
You need to accept the
Why?
truth, not what I think is right. What's actually happening.
You said white people have been in control of everything. Who is the president of the United States right now?
A black man. With a white Congress, with a white Senate, with what everything else. He doesn't have the control of everything.
Go off.
Go off. But no, you are so privileged, like the original kid. Okay, let's put this on the smaller spectrum. You're saying...
We have to scream.
Yes.
Breaking news, nigga. Some breaking news.
What's wrong with you, black women? The nigga ain't got no sense. You niggas are crazy.
As our pollster on the panel here, there is this big debate among Democrats whether or not they should throw what they're calling identity politics, which is, I think, sort of a slanderous way of saying don't talk about people of color, LGBT people, and other marginalized communities anymore because we need to focus on white working class people. And there's a debate over whether to do that or not. But in your view, is that a smart thing to do? And I will also ask you, what is the one line, log line of the Democratic Party right now?
Look, this ideal that the Democrats need to spend more time having a conversation with white voters is patently absurd. Like, we spend 80% of our resources right now chasing this mythical swing voter, this unicorn swing voter, white swing voter. Truth of the matter is, look, we're not winning more blue-collar white voters because we're racially polarized. These people want their country back, and they saw Donald Trump as the strong, great white hope to give them their country back, right? So unless we inoculate some of the racial polarization, we're not going to, we haven't been winning them over the last decade, we're not going to win more. So the question becomes this: do we spend more time and resources chasing a shrinking marketplace that is increasingly more resistant to you? Or do you in fact spend more of your resources at a growing marketplace that is less resistant to you? That's the real question. Should we win more white voters, especially blue-collar white voters? Absolutely. It'd be patently absurd for the Democratic Party, however, to double down and spend more of its resources chasing a shrinking marketplace that is increasingly more resistance to you, unless there's a party realignment, which is not going to be a party realignment anytime soon. So unless you have an emotional attachment to this, from a pure market standpoint, the future is with younger voters. The future is with the growing marketplace, and that's not to say we should ignore blue-collar white voters. We should talk to everyone, but sort of have an inclusive conversation. We can't continue to have this conversation about, well, white people are voting against these working class white people are voting against their economic interests. Howard Dean said this, 8 years ago. No, they're not voting against their economic interests. They're voting for their higher interests. Now, that's a conversation that Democrats need to have from a cultural standpoint, what the president was talking about. But the Democratic Party has to look to the future marketplace and expand that, and not take the wrong lessons of this. We lost to a guy who got less of the percentage of the vote than Mitt Romney, right? It's not like they are expanding the party. They're expanding their tent. We have to go after those voters that made up that 51, 52% of the for Barack Obama. Look, this electorate was 2% browner than the electorate that Barack Obama was in. And 4 years from now, if we do what we're supposed to do, the electorate's going to be even 2% more browner. That's the expanding marketplace. But that's not to mean we're against white voters.
Even that doesn't work. Listen, you can say that there was no white lash. There was a little bit of white lash. He did win 4 years ago. And from that time also came all of the jokes about he's not American, he's not this, he's not that. And, you know, hearing people make sort of the kind of off-center racist joke that isn't, you know.
About his children,
or someone who said, and I'm not going to say who it was, but it was somebody sort of high up who said, you know, to think of it, this is a guy that would have been parking my car. And I looked at him.
Who said that?
I'm not telling you who said it.
All right. Tell me later.
But
tell me later.
No, because the point is not who said it. The point is that it was said.
Yeah.
You know, and from, you know, accusing him of looking like Curious George, all the stuff. You know, so suddenly when you hear all of this and you hear all the obstructionist stuff, and you think, well, damn. Well, you wouldn't be obstruction. You wouldn't be doing this to somebody else. People of color know what this means. We know. Because it's part of the underlying conversation. Because it's been part of our conversation for 8 years. Because no president has ever had to deal with this. None. So there is a lot of that. And whether you agree with it or not, as a black person and a person of color and a person who's been paying attention to this, it does have some of that.
And don't you think that
He's
that
not
all
on
these
the
white
ballot.
people were...
I honestly feel if President Obama could have run for a third term, I think he would have beat Donald Trump. I think he would have won. That's not racism then, though. People are going to say that about Trump, though, and that's not going to always be about race. For some, absolutely. Is there racism?
What part am I missing with you? What part am I missing that
you're not getting? You can't. No, because I don't think you can label everything that it comes from the lens of race.
I'm not labeling anything racism. I'm saying that's what it feels like.
I don't care about your feelings.
Okay.
So
that's what it looks like, too.
You know, this is why black people don't want to talk to white people, because you can't. I'm sorry. Y'all just have to hold on.
Yeah.
Because anytime you say, hey, this is what it feels like, people say, oh, you're bringing out the race card.
Don't let me get to clapping, boo.
Yeah. So it makes you not want to have the conversation.
If it weren't for the fast response of an Ohio State University police officer pictured there on the screen. He shot the killer dead within minutes. That officer is being praised tonight as a hero, of course. But not everyone on the activist left is impressed by what he did. Some have imputed racial motives to the shooting. Among those is radio show host and author Tariq Nasheed. He tweeted this yesterday. So white officer Alan Harukjo shot and killed the black Somali stabbing suspect in Ohio and is being paraded as a hero. That's interesting. Well, Tariq joins us now to explain. Tariq, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tucker.
Oh, of course. This struck me when I read it as a pretty cowardly thing for you to say for a bunch of reasons, but mostly because it's so imprecise. Okay. You don't spell out what you mean. You say that that's interesting. Why is that interesting? Would it have been better if this guy, the murderer, had continued to hack people with a butcher knife? Is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
No, I'm saying, Tucker, what's cowardly is to make up a false narrative that I didn't say or even imply by saying that I was not impressed or I was dissatisfied with the police's work. And basically, that tweet was very vague. It was very neutral. It was basically a statement. It wasn't even my opinion. So for you to start off the segment saying that it was cowardly, that's disingenuous.
Look, I'm having you on, Tariq, to explain yourself, and I'm asking you, what did you mean by that? Is the guy,
and I'll be glad to do that.
Who shot this guy a hero, or isn't he?
I'll be glad to answer that, but I don't want to do the false narrative thing because that's just very disingenuous, and I like to bring truth to power.
The question.
Now, let me explain what I meant.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think that the guy was wrong for what he did. The guy was a hero. The comment wasn't meant to racialize the actual shooting in the event itself. When that happened, online, there were a lot of people who played the race card, and the minute they found out who the suspect was, they kept talking about black Somalian, then they started talking about Black Lives Matter, then they started talking about Obama, then they racialized it. So, that's normal.
I'm sorry. Okay. So there's only so much I can take. I spent all afternoon listening to your podcast, which is the most racialized thing I think I've ever listened to in my life. And not
which is not true. Which is not true.
Let me say this. You sent a series of tweets here noting the race and the nationality of the terrorist, and you also put quotes around the word terrorist. If you drive your car through a crowd of people and murder someone with a knife, are you not a terrorist? Why did you put quotes around?
I didn't say that the man. I didn't say that the man wasn't a terrorist. Tucker, are you going to say anything honest before we get the interview started? Or it's just going to be a bunch of projection of your suspected white supremacist view. Of your suspected white supremacist view. Of your suspected white supremacist view.
Nigga, please. Terrorist. Okay.
Because I don't know if I didn't know if the guy was a terrorist or not. I didn't know if he was a suspect. I didn't know if that was the only suspect. So I didn't have all the facts. I wanted to wait for all the facts to come in before I labeled people, which is what you should do.
Okay. If someone drives his car through a crowd of people, here's what we knew from the first moment this happened. A guy drove his car through a crowd of people, intentionally hitting them, and then he attacked one of them with a knife. What else do you need to know in order to conclude that man is committing an act of terrorism? What's the missing piece there for you?
We didn't get all the facts initially because initially they said that there were other suspects. So I didn't have all the facts in. So I wasn't in the position to label anybody or bring my opinion to the table. I wanted to wait to see what all the facts were before I labeled people. And that's what you should do,
No,
Tucker.
you didn't. What you were trying to do is incite race hatred, which is what you do for a living, making this about race from the very start, when in fact race played no role. Now, you make the claim repeatedly in your writings and on your show that this is a, quote, white supremacist country. The guy who did this was imported here at taxpayer expense from Somalia. He was living, I believe, entirely on taxpayer expense. It was government-subsidized education at Ohio State. Why would a white supremacist country import Africans in large numbers and then pay for them to live here? I don't understand. It doesn't speak in narratives. It doesn't really fit your narrative, does it?
So we don't live in a system of complete white supremacy? Everybody's lying, Tucker?
Why is he so stupid? Why is he so stupid?
I ask myself that every day.
So the overwhelming majority of immigrants to this country are non-white. Why would a white supremacist country import massive numbers of non-white immigrants? Not to blow
But when
your
you
mind,
say non-white, I mean, there's Hispanic people who you say are non-white, but they're labeled as white. There are a lot of people who are classified as white that you say are non-white. So you play this racialized game. So who's non-white and who's white?
Okay, good. I guess the point I'm making is that it's not 1955. It's a totally different country from the one you seem to be addressing on Twitter and in your podcast. Then answer this.
How's it different, sir?
In your tweet, it's different in this way. It is an entirely multi-ethnic country. It's not just black people and white people, one oppressing the other. It's a much more complicated landscape, as you may have noticed if you go outside. And so when you tweet out that this is a story of a white man killing a black man, that is misleading. That's not at all what happened. There was no racial motive that we know of here, and you're implying there was.
I didn't say there was a racial motive.
Your financial. Well, of course you did. You said the white officer shot a black Somali suspect.
Tucker. This is Fox News. You guys are the race casino. Forget about the race card. You play the race casino. So it's very hypocritical for me to specify the race of a suspect and a police officer, and that is supposed to be some kind of problem when you guys do it all the time and arbitrarily blame black people for everything negative in this country.
Here, I'm not even going to rise to the debate. Let me just say that I think when normal people, and I'm excluding you from that category, watched what happened yesterday, they didn't see the race of the terrorist or the race of the cop. They saw an American stopping a lunatic from murdering more people on a college campus.
So why did your white supremacist colleagues make it racial? So why did they make it racial? Why did so many people in the right? And how did they make it racial?
Oh, hell no.
I don't know one person on any network who looked at this and said, here you have a white man killing a black man. They said, here you have a police officer, representative of
they said black Somalian,
stopping a mass
Black
murder
Lives
from
Matter.
continuing.
So was it Black Lives Matter fault? You guys always seem to blame Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter is any black person you choose to make Black Lives Matter. So,
nigga, please.
Right. Okay. I'm following. I'm missing the thread of your argument, but I think you've made your
you're
own
not
point.
missing it.
Yeah,
you got it.
I'm not.
You're a smart guy. Suspected white supremacists are very smart, so you got it.
Right. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
See, that's communication.